Okay, moving right along. On page 676, there's an example up there at the top that I want to go through. So we're supposed to draw rectangles with the same perimeter and different areas. Well, let's see what we can do here. For this one, we need to come up with 20 units, so that's pretty important. A perimeter of 20 units and an area of 24 units. So the first thing that I think comes to my mind, I have to think of what two numbers multiply together that will give me 24. But then if I take those same two numbers, add them together, and then double them, I need to get 20. Well, one example could be a 4 by 6. So we have 4 units here and then 6 right here. So if we're going to calculate the perimeter, okay, the perimeter would be 4 plus 6, and then we have to double it to get the other one side. Okay, so 4 plus 6, and we're going to multiply that by 2. So our perimeter ends up being 10 times 2, which is, here's our 2, ends up being 20. Alright, so we're good on the perimeter. So we'll just go ahead and move this out of the way here. Now let's figure out the area. So the area is equal to the length times the width, or in this case 4 times 6, and that area is going to be 24. So we have met the conditions here. This would be a 4 unit by 6 unit. Alright, is that the only one? I don't know yet, to be honest with you. We could switch this around. We could have a 6 by 4. That would also give it to us. But later on here we'll look at an example at the bottom and see how we could apply this. Now down here, same rectangle problem, but with a perimeter of 20. Make sure I get the right color here. Same perimeter of 20, and now I want an area of 25. So let's see what we can do here. I need to think of two numbers. When I multiply them together, I get 25. And then when I add those two numbers together and then double it, I get 20. Well, when I'm thinking about 25, there's really only two sets of numbers that come to mind. 1 times 25, or 5 squared, or 5 times 5. One of our doubles or our perfect squares. So here is 5 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's start with the area first. Alright, so the area would be 5 times 5, which is 25. And I keep saying I need to think of two numbers that when I multiply them together, I get one thing. And then when I add those two numbers together, and then double it. All right, so I can either multiply it, this whole thing, by 2, or I could say 5 plus 5, and then double it by saying 5 plus 5. Either way you look at it, you end up with 20. So an example here is going to be 5 units and 5 units. Now, let's take a deeper dive here into this question, that example number 1. And I told you, I don't know if there's any more answers to this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at 24. And if you remember, in one of the previous lessons, I talk about finding a pattern, and that, if we can find a pattern, and I said I love finding patterns, and it helps us to solve the problems. So the first thing I need to do is think of, okay, what two numbers multiplied together are going to give me 24? The first one that I can think of is 1 times 24. All right, so 1 times 24. The other one that I can think of would be 2 times 12. And then I've got 3 times 8. And then I've got 4 times 6. And then from there, I'm reversing it. Okay, so I'm going down here. Instead of 4 times 6, now I've got 6 times 4. Okay, so I'm really going to stop right here at the 4 times 6, because anything I come up with for these 4 is going to be the same for its opposite. So all of these equal 24. So we know that the area for all of these is going to be 24. The question is, can I find a set of numbers that when I add them and then double it, can I come up with a perimeter of 20? Okay, so I have to, instead of finding two numbers multiplying together, I need to find two numbers, I need to add them together. So 1 plus 24, and then double it. Alright, so what we got here, 1 plus 24 is 25, double that, and we get 50. That is not the same as 20. Let's see what happens when we add 2 and 12, then double it. Let's see, 14, double that, and we get 28. That's not going to do it. 3 plus 8. And again, remember what I said, we go back to up here and say what two numbers multiplied together that give us 24. And instead of multiplying those two numbers, we add those two numbers and double it to find the perimeter. So let's see, 3 plus 8, 11. Double that to get 22. Now as we've gone through this, you can see we're getting closer to 20. Okay, so 4 plus 6, double it, And here we go. 4 plus 6, that's 10. Double it, we get 20. Now, this is where it basically flips. Okay, 4, 6, we have 6 and 4. And I bet you're smart enough to know that right here, instead of 3 and 8, that would be 8 times 3. And then it would be, you got it, 12 times 2, and 24 times 1. So we really don't need to do these down here. Alright, but just to show you that we can go ahead and have a different dimension. Okay, instead of a 4 by 6, we can go a 6 by 4. Alright, same object, same rectangle, just rotated. We still end up with a perimeter of 20. Alright, so 6 plus 4, or 4 plus 6. And I bet you can figure out what an 8 by 3 would be, since these two are the same. You guessed it, this is going to be a 22. And this is going to be a 28. And then that pattern would continue. Okay.